Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cheryl Blackwell, and I'm an AARP volunteer, caregiver, and your moderator for this workshop. I just want to give you a little history that I attended NJBIC's 36th annual convention. Then it was at the Newark venue, and I'm so happy and honored to return today to moderate at this monumental 40th. I want to thank you, NJBIC, for hosting a live convention post-COVID, and to you all for attending. I trust you will depart being informed, invigorated, and ready to advocate for your loved ones. I have a question for you all. Who are family caregivers? Yes?
Anyone that takes care of a family member.
Exactly. They're people that look like me. And you, yes, all of you, who will support a loved one, a blood relative, partner, friend, or close neighbor, by managing their illness with the goal to maintain their quality of life and expand access to home community-based services. If you haven't done so yet, it's merely a matter of time. As my Caribbean friends would say, it soon come. But for me, I rapidly donned the crown and sash caregiver, and the multitude of unknown next steps and emotional and physical challenges when my dear mother was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. A life expectancy of 6 months, which sadly was accurate, simultaneously dealing with the siblings' drug addiction and months from losing my beloved job of 13 years due to a corporate merger. But now I became her advocate. I successfully found all services and hospice care due her prior to her transition. After taking care of me, I realized one day it could be me in need. Its empathy, love, and humanity is one way I describe the person that is a caregiver. They're selfless, and that is why I diligently support this effort and advocate for relevant legislatures. Now I just want to mention some important topics. COVID-19 has tragically highlighted the need for better options and opportunities to stay independent when it comes to long-term care. The pandemic emphasized the inequities in our healthcare system with devastating impacts on older adults and communities of color. In order for New Jersey to achieve healthy equity, we must ensure the necessary supports so people can live at home and avoid costly and sometimes subpar nursing homes. Did you know that every day 1.1 million New Jerseyans help their parents, spouses, and other loved ones remain at home where they want to be? This unpaid care is valued at $13 billion annually, saving the state money by helping to avoid costly nursing home care. Yet, the average caregiver spends 26% of their own income caring for a loved one. That's a financial strain that is becoming harder to bear. It's a labor of love with far-reaching impacts on mental and physical health, as well as financial security. Let me first introduce and mention to you that the panelists to my left will discuss the vital roles of caregivers, the outsized impact on communities of color, and current efforts to support family caregivers and expand access to home and community-based services. Now you all have your booklets, so I'm not going to go in depth into their wonderful bios, but I will mention Letitia Sweet, caregiver at ARP New Jersey volunteer, Assemblywoman Angela McKnight, 31st Legislative District, Chairwoman of the Aging and Senior Service Committee, as well as founder and CEO of Angela Cares, Inc., Ms. Denise Lyles, New Jersey Division of Aging Services, New Jersey Department of Human Services, and my dear Crystal McDonald, AARP New Jersey Associate State Director. Okay, I'm going to take this time and I'm going to ask each of you a question. You have approximately 5 minutes to ask. The one overall question Can you each tell us more about your role and why you believe it is essential to support family caregivers? I'll start with Letitia. As Letitia, I know you're a caregiver for your mom, who I know you love dearly. As a caregiver myself, I know how hard it is to think about your own needs when there is so much for you to do for your mother. What do you wish more people knew about family caregivers?
We've got one mic, so we'll be sharing.
Thank you so much. What I wish that people will know about caregivers is that, first and foremost, that we are here. We're here, we live amongst you, we're not invisible. Many of us, many times, we do not even realize that we are caregivers because it's something that's totally ingrained within us, within our DNA, whether that be culturally or whether that be because someone is actually, giving you that particular role. And most importantly is that we do need you. We need your support, we need your help, we need your guidance, we need your advocacy. And I guess, just basically that we're here. We are here and we do need you.
Good morning. My name is Denise Lyles, and I'm here today on behalf of Louise Rush. She is the Director of the Division of Aging Services within the Department of Human Services. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but it's an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you on her behalf. So, as the Director of the Division of Aging Services, Louise Rush oversees all division operations and the administration of all of our division programs. And she has worked in this field for over 30 years and has come to recognize and understand that supporting family caregivers is essential because through this role, they allow our seniors to live their best lives. The same is also wished for the caregivers, and it is through the unique experiences of the caregivers that we are able to expand our knowledge regarding the true needs of our aging community.
Hi, good morning. My name is Assemblywoman Angela B. McKnight, and I want to just say that being a caregiver has no age. You can be a caregiver at 21, 18, 57, or 87, has no age. I was a caregiver to my grandmother, to my mother, to my uncle, and recently my dad who passed away last year. And being a caregiver in the beginning, such a young age, I had to work, and I'm still working. And I want to say to the caregivers who are watching, who's listening, who's in the room, that I see you. And as a legislator, I'm a chairwoman of the aging and senior community, and I make sure that legislation come through my desk that will support you and that will uplift you, because caregivers, you are essential. And you are working, or you're retiring, or you have your other kids that you are caring for, and you have to have that time also to care for yourself. So we need to have legislation for respite care. We need to have legislation to put money back in your pocket, because being a caregiver, you spend a whole lot of money. For my dad who passed away, I had to go to North Carolina because he got very ill. So I had to stop everything to go down there to care for him. And then I brought him back to New Jersey. And that was on a dime that I would never get back. So I see you, I hear you, I feel you. And last but not least, I started my nonprofit organization, Angela Cares, because there was a need to help more seniors, including caregivers. I could go on and on about the plights that caregivers go through, because I am you, and I see you, and I feel you. So I'm looking forward to this robust conversation so that we can continue to fight the good fight and support caregivers. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you something since you have it. Since you serve as the chairwoman for the Assembly of Aging and Senior Services Committee, can you share more about the focus of your committee and the impact you have on our system of long-time care? And has anything changed since the pandemic?
That's a good question. So before me, it was Assemblywoman Valerie Benelli Huddle, and she did a great job, especially during the pandemic. And she has passed the baton over to me because she's no longer in the legislature. And the Asian and Senior Community Committee, I want to see legislation that's going to support seniors, whether you are in long-term care or you at home. I want to see legislation that will support caregivers, such as 1802, where we want to put money back into your pocket. I'm a prime sponsor on this. I want to see legislation that will bring community services into the home while you are caring for your loved one. So the Aging and Senior Committee is about uplifting seniors, uplifting people who are aging. It's about supporting you and giving you what you need. And I will continue to fight the good fight on this committee as long as I'm a legislator. Even when I'm gone, I will continue to fight. And AARP is a champion to make sure that my committee has bills that are for you and that will support you. So that is the role, and I could go on and on. There's a lot that will pass by my committee, but I just want to let you all know that long-term care, whether you're home or if you're in a nursing home, a long-term care facility, I want to see legislation that's going to support the whole spectrum. And that's from the people who are caring for you while you're home, the people who are caring for you while you're in long-term care. Because you have knowledge, and you have wisdom, and you have done so much for us. And I want to make sure that my committee continue to do all that we can do so that you can age in place wherever you want to age in place, whether that's in home or with a loved one or in a long-term care community.
Thank you.
And I know Louise is not here. I don't think you answered this question, Denise. I wanted to share it with you. Can you share more about some of the programs available, both for caregivers and older adults who want to age in place?
So, on a personal note, I just would also like to indicate that I am a caregiver as well. I think we probably all are caregivers in some shape, form, or fashion. For many years, I took care of my grandmother who was ultimately diagnosed with a form of dementia. And I lived with her for many years and watched the progression of that disease and what it did to her, and stood by her and supported her along with help from my family. But I was actually physically in the home with her on a daily basis until she did get to the point where she required nursing home care. And I am currently in a caregiver situation in my personal home as well with my spouse. And it's a lot to bear, and it's a very important topic. And again, I can't stress how honored I am to be here, to have the opportunity to speak to you. As far as our division programs, today we are recognized by the federal government as the State Unit on Aging. Each state in the country has a state unit on aging, and the State Unit on Aging is responsible for the oversight of senior programs in each state. So the Division of Aging Services is responsible for the oversight of these programs in New Jersey. We administer programs directly, but primarily we also administer them through what we have at each county called the Area Agency on Aging, and some people know them as the AAAs. So there are 21 counties in New Jersey, so we have 21 AAAs. And a lot of the services are either provided by the AAAs or by the provider networks with whom the AAAs contract. In addition to having the AAAs AAAs also function as what we call ADRCs, which is the Aging and Disability Resource Connection. And then they provide information for those who need disability services as well. And the AAAs and the ADRCs are supported by the federal government through funding we receive through the Older Americans Act. And the Act today supports a wide range of home and community-based services for individuals over age 60 and older. And in addition, the Act puts in place safeguards for seniors to age at home with dignity by funding core services including in-home care, home-delivered meals, community-based nutrition programs, wellness programs, transportation, legal services, support for caregivers, and elder abuse prevention strategies. Currently, the Act supports 58 million individuals aged 60 and older and 43 million caregivers. And based on some recent surveys that we have reviewed, 90% or more of our seniors want to age in place, and 80% of those believe that they would like to age in place in their home, surrounded by family and friends and loved ones. And of course, in order for this to happen, these seniors need the support of a network of caregivers, their spouses, children, siblings, friends, and our extended family. Again, for me personally, my mother was right by my side. It's my mother's mother that I was taking care of. But it takes a village. So my mother and her siblings and me as the primary caretaker actually living in the home, it took all of us, to make the situation with my grandmother work, and we all rallied together and again kept her in the home for as long as we possibly could. So again, going back to the services, so we have services that are free or low cost, and the services are home and community-based services, and seniors and caregivers are made aware of these services, and we also try to make sure that the application processes to gain these services are easy to navigate. And one of the main home and community-based services we have is a state-funded program, and it's called the Jersey Assistance for Community Caregiving, or many people know it as the JAC program. And JAC keeps a person in their home by providing in-home assistance if they are nursing home eligible but have income above the Medicaid limits. And the JAC program offers a wide variety of services to allow older adults to remain in their home. In addition to JAC, we have a program called the Statewide Respite Care Program, and that allows caregivers to take a break, to go to doctor's appointments, or to go to the beauty salon, or to attend an event of a family member, such as a graduation or a birthday party. And respite care services provide caregivers with an opportunity to recharge and re-energize, and it helps with their stress levels and their physical and emotional health and overall well-being. And we also have our Alzheimer's Adult Day Services program, and that provides a safe place for a caregiver to send a loved one with dementia or a related disorder. And this alleviates some of the worry that caregivers have about leaving their loved one alone while they have to take care of, their day-to-day, responsibilities, which we all have. And then,
I'm sorry.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, I have one more. All right, okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. And so then finally, we have a Managed Long-Term Services and Supports Program, which is also known as MLTSS. And this program allows us to take Medicaid dollars intended for nursing home care to give consumers a choice to remain at home with services, and those services are provided by managed care organizations.
You all do a lot.
Yes, definitely a mouthful.
But I cannot forget my dear Crystal. As we know, caregiving has always been a labor of love. But as with nearly everything else, COVID has made it difficult. Can you share with us AARP's recent poll and research on family caregiving?
Thanks, Letitia. And thank you again to everyone for being here, especially our panel. Caregiving is a lot of work, and it's really hard to get away, I know. And it's really important for us to be having this conversation about how we can move forward to better support caregivers. So maybe it could be a little easier to step out. And I just wanted to share a story about when I first started working for AARP. I didn't know what a caregiver was. I had seen caregiving my whole life. I didn't know the terminology. And I came into this work, and one of the first phone calls that I got into my office was a caregiver. She also didn't identify herself as such, but she called to say that she had been caring for her husband for 10 years, and that she had not taken a break in 10 years. And you're like, oh, okay, she hasn't taken a break. She said, no, I haven't taken a break. I went to lunch with a friend of mine once about 3 years ago, and that's the only time that I haven't been with my husband 24/7. She's like, is there help? What can we do? I'm tired, I love him, I want to keep doing this work, but I can't work myself, I don't have friends to help, and I don't know where to look. And so this is what drove me headfirst into this work, and I've become so passionate about figuring out how do we better improve supports for caregivers and how it impacts our entire long-term care system overall. With luck, we're all going to age and get older one day. We all want to do that with choice and dignity, and that's what AARP is all about. That is our mission. Let's make sure that people can choose how they want to live as they age. And that is why caregiving is so important to our organization and the work that we do. Here in New Jersey, we're not alone. Cheryl shared with us that there are over 1 million caregivers in our state providing about $13 billion annually in unpaid care. That's how much you're helping the state by caring for your loved ones. So you're not just caring for that person that you love, helping them to live at home, but you're saving the state money. Our entire state budget for Medicaid, which I'll tell you why that's important in a minute, is $16 billion. It's pretty close. Medicaid funds most of our long-term care services and supports because long-term care is expensive. Nursing homes are not cheap, right? So we're talking about $12,000 a month on average to go into a nursing home. And so think of all the dollars we're saving the state by helping our loved ones to remain at home. And so that's why we think it's so important to invest in caregivers and figure out how as a state we're going to better support this really essential part of our system. And so, Cheryl asked a little bit about COVID, and certainly caregiving was already hard before the pandemic. The pandemic knocked people off their socks, right? We were getting, I know I wasn't the one doing it, but I'm having PTSD from the calls I was getting during the pandemic of people who needed help. All of a sudden, all of their systems collapsed, right? Adult day centers closed. There was infection levels and staffing shortages at the facilities they normally use, but also the people coming into their homes were, they were nervous. Are they going to have their PPE on? Have they been infected? Am I going to bring this into my home? And so caregivers were left holding the bag, trying to figure out, most of them are sandwich generation families. They got small kids, they got their, jobs, and then they have their adult loved ones that they're caring for, and they had to figure out how to balance all of that, right, when the world shut down. And AARP did a poll just to kind of get a snapshot, figure out how do we best improve this. And unfortunately, unsurprisingly, the numbers are pretty dire. 57% of caregivers reported being more isolated and lonely. 45% had fewer family and friends available to help. 31%, that's 1 in 3, had difficulty finding community-based services. And this impacted work, right? So on the flip side of this, 1 in 3 had to take a leave of absence from work. 38% had to reduce their hours worked. And as a result, 39% found themselves in a worse financial situation than they were in pre-pandemic. And so people are hurting, and the rebound is happening, hopefully in the economy, but what's going on with these caregivers who now know, at any given moment, maybe they are going to have to figure out how to make ends meet again, and some have and some haven't. And we still have the impact to see on what this is going to mean for long-term care overall. But it's so important that we have champions like Assemblywoman McKnight, who really has been taking the charge and figuring out, well, like, how do we fix these systemic problems and move our state in the right direction to help them. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I just do want to mention too that when we look particularly at the Black community, caregivers on average are younger. They're often unmarried than compared to other racial and ethnic groups. They're reporting lower household income than non-Hispanic, white, and Asian communities. And they're often engaging in higher intensity levels of care. And that's measured in lots of different ways, but one of the ways we look at it is how many activities of daily living are you helping with? How many really integral activities of daily living are you helping with? And how much is medical and nursing care? And the numbers are just much higher in the Black community than in other communities for the type of care that they're giving, for how long they're caregiving. On average, a family caregiver, if you're not looking at race, is about 49 years of age, a woman and working part-time. The average Black caregiver is working 37.5 hours a week, and then providing on top of that over 26 or 31 hours of care, family caregiving a week, right? And so there's not a lot of time left for other things, and unsurprisingly, we're seeing higher negative financial impacts than reported by other community groups. And so it's very important that we speak up and talk about the inequities that are faced, and we'll talk about home and community-based services a little bit, but when we see the reporting back and we try to break it down by racial and ethnic group, the numbers are always different, and we're always like, well, why is it that people don't identify as a caregiver, or they see this as like, this is my responsibility, of course I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna complain and talk about the financial impact. But it's not just impacting, you know, me, Crystal McDonald, or you in this room, it's impacting our entire community and our culture of long-term care and how we support people. And so the work is so important. It's good for us. It's cheaper long-term, but it's also, you know, so important that we address the devastating impacts that we've had. We lost over 8,900 people who were living in nursing homes and staff during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? It's still going on. It's ended, but you know, people are still reeling from the impacts of that, and we have to figure out, how do we keep people at home? Most people want to be home. We've heard kind of far and away, like, if you have the choice and you don't need high levels of nursing care, you want to figure out how to be in the community with your family, and your family wants to figure out how to do that for you. And it's cheaper, right? Overall, it's less expensive for everyone involved to be able to do that. So we are just working, trying to find as many partners as we can to try to thread that needle and figure out how do we pass policies that get us there, right, to a more sustainable long-term care system, and to be able to live and age with choice and dignity. Because we talk a lot, you know, we hear New Jersey has to be a place where we can grow up and grow old. We're the best, right? And so we're just keep doing our work to push them forward, and we hope that you'll do that with us. Cheryl hasn't cut me off yet, but I gave you all this flyer. I know, I'm sorry. And one of the, we'll talk about this shortly, but I hope you'll take a look at it while we're talking here today and think about sharing your story, because that is a huge impact, right? People hear data, they hear numbers, they hear from people like me, but I think we'll let the chairwoman speak for herself. When we hear directly from people who are impacted on what it means to you to have this change, it takes us far and away, you know, steps ahead in this fight to try to get policy change. So I hope you'll take a look at that, and I'll talk more about it later. Pass it back to Cheryl.
Sorry, that's okay.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Denise. I want to focus on the division's, your division's caregiver task force work. If you could share a little bit about the goals of the task force, anticipated timeline for when we may see the task force report, and the impact you hope it will have.
3 minutes.
Okay. So during the convening of the task force, of which our director was a member, New Jersey family caregivers were surveyed, and 3 family caregiver testimonial sessions were also held, and certain state data and resources were reviewed. And throughout the duration of the task force, there were some themes that repeatedly arose. And those were things such as, again, this is something that we've already touched upon this morning. Caregivers face many challenges in navigating their path of caregiving, and they are often unaware of services available to them and find difficulty accessing existing resources. Caregivers are unique. Again, they come in all shapes and sizes. Many factors impact how caregiving looks, including the needs and wishes of the care recipient, the circumstances of the caregiving situation, and the needs and wishes of the caregiver themselves. And Crystal spoke to this just a few minutes ago. Many caregivers feel isolated and overwhelmed and experience frustration and grief while facing the challenges of caregiving on their own. And caregiving often has a significant impact on the finances and has severely limited time for the self-care of a caregiver. So simply put, caregivers need a break. Again, through all of the work that our division has done, we recognize the importance of supporting caregivers, and this is the overriding reason that the task force was formed. And the task force found that it is imperative that New Jersey family caregivers are supported with resources that are convenient, easy to understand, and available. As for the time frame for the task force report, I don't have any information regarding when the report will be published, but it is currently under review, and will and the final version of the report is forthcoming.
Thank you, Denise.
I'm going to come back to you, Krista. I want to talk about AARP caregivers advocacy efforts. You mentioned the need for financial relief, and AARP is working on passing the Caregivers Assistance Act. Can you share more about the effort?
Thanks, Cheryl. And I'll try to be quick this time. There's actually some fact sheets and information over there on the side too, if you want to take that on your way out, that shares more about this Caregivers Assistance Act, a little bit about a report we did on presumptive eligibility for home and community-based services, which is a mouthful, which is why it's a whole report, and more information from the Division of Aging on these resources that Denise has so graciously been sharing with us about. So we know it's a lot, but feel free to take from that as we leave. But I wanted to come back to this flyer we passed out earlier. AARP is supporting legislation. It's A1802S2021. You don't have to remember the number yet. It's on the fact sheet, but it establishes a Caregivers Assistance Act, which is essentially it's a fully refundable income tax credit for caregivers of senior loved ones. And I'll talk about why the fully refundable is important in a minute, but we know that one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest issues that caregivers have, is financial stability, right? Figuring out how to figure out the financial resources to continue caregiving. And this bill takes us a step in the right direction. It's a modest income tax credit, so it's a credit up to $675, essentially to reimburse for expenses that you have in caregiving for a senior loved one who is either 60 and older or 50 and older and on SSDI. All of the kind of specifics of eligibility are in that fact sheet, but what it does is it says, hey, we need to acknowledge family caregivers and the support that they provide to our state. And then we need to provide some financial relief to them to help them to continue being able to do this work. We know that caregivers are spending on average 26% of their income on caregiving expenses, and about $7,200 annually on caregiving. And this has a big impact. Our research has shown that 1 in 4 have taken on more debt, 22% have used up their personal savings to do caregiving, 1 in 10 have been unable to afford basic expenses like food, and really kind of the big alarming number for me on top of all that is that family caregivers who are 50 and older and leave the workforce to care for a parent, lose on average $304,000 in income and benefits over their lifetime, right? So this has an impact on family wealth, generational wealth, and the ability to move forward and make sure that when we grow old, we're cared for, right? That question comes up a lot when we're talking to family caregivers, like, I'm putting my all into this, and that my all is finances, it's time. I gave up work, I gave up X, Y, and Z, and I'm not sure who's gonna take care of me, you know, when I reach an age where I need caregiving supports. And so it's so important that we take care of ourselves too, right? I hear, I'm not gonna go into this too much, but a lot of people saying, I can't take time for me, and it's hard, and we have to make sure the resources are wrapped around a person to be able to do that. But a caregiver's own health, mental health, physical health, and financial resources are worth fighting for, right? Because you are the backbone of our long-term care system. The backbone of our long-term care system is the backbone of our society, right, and of our culture. And so we are fighting very hard to pass this legislation. I'm trying to be faster now. It's A1802 S2021, and I just want to doubly state we'd love for you all to join us in this fight to pass this tax credit, but in this fight longer term to get better supports for family caregivers, better home and community-based services wrapped around us. And so one of the ways you can do that today is by sharing a little bit about yourself and your story. We're collecting these to share with lawmakers. Not everyone is as wonderful as Assembly Women McKnight, who has sponsored and really chiefed this legislation, moved it through her committee already. We've got to get everyone else on board to get this over the finish line. And so by sharing your story, letting your lawmakers know how this impacts you and why you want them to vote yes, is so critically important to helping achieve this, hopefully victory, and move us even farther along in the supports for family caregivers. So we hope you'll join us in that, and I'm happy to talk more after if people have questions, but I'm going to try to be not take up all the time again. Move it over to Cheryl.
There's just so much to say about caregiving. But now I'd like to go back to Assemblywoman McKnight. I know you've been you've been the one on top of championing two pieces of critical legislation for us. One happened to be the one that Crystal's referring to. We want to thank you so much for moving that forward, getting that through. Thank you. The whole room thanks you, even though they may not realize that they should. But now if you can talk a little bit about the other legislature, A4049, which you sponsor and will provide presumptive eligibility for home and community-based services. Just exactly what does that mean, and how will it help improve long-term care for our seniors?
Awesome. Thank you. So it's A4049. You don't have to remember the number, but we like to put the numbers out there. And the piece of legislation is to provide for presumptive eligibility for home and community-based services under Medicaid. So when you apply for Medicaid and you give your whole life story, right, all your financials, on your life insurance policies, if you have a mortgage, you give all of that information, and then you submit it to your county office, the Medicaid office, and then it takes some time. It may take 45 days, it may take 60 days, and you know that, or it may take a little longer, and you know that you feel that you are eligible because you looked at the requirements, you meet the guidelines, you submitted all your paperwork, but you're still home. So what is happening? You're there, you're home, your caregiver is caring for you, but they're utilizing their resources. They are trying to figure out how they can get help for you. So this piece of legislation will allow you to receive community-based services while you're waiting for your application to be completed and processed. Isn't that amazing? So you can get, you can clap for that. So you will be able to get that home health aid, right? The caregiver will be able to get some respite care and all the resources that you spoke about. You can get some of those resources while your Medicaid application is going through the process. And then on the flip side, this will give more accountability on the workers to make sure that they go through your application and process your application in a timely fashion. I know so many seniors who have applied for Medicaid because they want to get into an adult daycare program, and they're just waiting. And their caregivers, they're taking off work because they have to be home with their loved ones. They're trying to, pay someone to watch their loved ones, and you're just waiting. So this piece of legislation will provide presumptive eligibility while the application is in process. And I'm so happy that AARP is helping me champion this bill, because a lot of people are eligible, but the process is so lengthy. And I want to just switch a little bit. I just introduced a piece of legislation for mobile services, for the state to provide mobile services to seniors. So it will be a truck that will be coming out to like the different senior community centers and senior homes and designated places where you can get on that mobile truck and apply for Medicaid, and apply for the JAC program, and apply for the SNAP program. Isn't that nice? Because many of us, we don't have time to go and stand on that long line. If you're a caregiver, you probably have to take off work and fill out the paperwork. So we want to bring services to the seniors where you are, and then you'll be able to apply for these services. And then with this presumptive eligibility, you'll be able to get some community-based services in your home. So this is that piece of legislation. And I gotta say something else. If you are caring for someone, please, 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 let's work on getting their affairs in order. And what I mean by that, I want you to call the Social Security office and get that form so that you are authorized to talk on their behalf. If they have Medicaid, I want you to call Medicaid and get that form so that you can speak on their behalf. If they have Medicaid right now, you call Medicaid office and get that authorization form so that you can fill out right now, because we need for you to be able to talk on behalf of the senior who you're caring for, because your senior may not be able to speak. And they won't speak to you. The Medicaid office won't speak to you. The Medicare office won't speak to you. Social Security won't speak to you. So get those forms in place. And you as the caregiver, I need for you to get your forms in place. I need for you to make sure that your life insurance, you have a beneficiary. I need you to get a will. I need you to check your senior loved one's will. Having these in place now will definitely ensure that you're living in your home much smoother, right? Because everything is in place, and if something happens to you, someone knows where those documents are, and they will be able to do what you want them to do. And for yourself, because you're a caregiver, right? And you're running around, especially with the sandwich generation. So you want to have your affairs in place too. So just in case if something happens to you and someone needs to take care of the senior who you're taking care of, they know what to do. So I could go on and on and on, but the presumptive eligibility is a piece of legislation that we need, and we need support. And these stories right here will definitely help, not only with 1802, but it will also help with 4049. And I see we have a beautiful senior with her hand raised. I don't know if we're taking questions yet, but we'll give it to the moderator, and then if needed, she'll give it back to me.
just one moment. I think you realize we've had a great panel, lots of information. But I want to close it with dear Letitia. Being a family caregiver and having heard all of this today, I totally understand what you're feeling, what you're going through. And you see caregivers come in all shapes, sizes, colors, predominantly women, but men also caregive as well. With all that said, I want to know, Letitia, how do you think caregivers could best be supported? And what advice would you give to someone who's trying to better support family caregivers?
Thank you. First, I just want to begin by saying all the information which has been given today and that you just heard, this is phenomenal. And I think this is the first and the best step in terms of saying how can a caregiver be best supported. Certainly by supporting all of these wonderful bills, getting these stories, getting your story out there, to the world to see, that is the best way that we can support each other. Because just as the Assemblywoman noted, and I will also like to echo that, yes, we all need to make sure that we prepare to care. And that's a wonderful session and seminar that's also given by AARP, but we need to prepare to care by not only getting our affairs in order, but making sure that our loved ones' affairs are in order. I can speak to that firsthand. My mother, God bless her, 90, Alzheimer's since 2016, so I've been on this journey for a long time with her. Prior to that, a little girl growing up, I knew if she died, I was going with my aunt. Okay, if she died, where something was kept. So it is very important for us, to do that, to get that in order. But first and foremost, just supporting these bills. And I'm just so pleased also to hear of all the services. I have been a long distance caregiver all this time. My mother is in New York, and most recently I had to make a decision to go back to take care of her because the Alzheimer's has, progressed. So in between working, commuting, and everything else, I was able to take advantage of some of the programs because I was a resident and when she was with me, which is good. So this is how we can be best supported. Making sure that we have those rules, we have those laws in place to speak to us, to give us that leg up. Sign it, get it in. Speak to your loved ones, speak to your friends, your family, let them know what's going on, get that information out there. Because many times we may not know because we are so busy with the care. We're so busy with the care. That is the best way, I believe, right now and here and now, that we can both best support each other and support other caregivers.
Okay, I know we're nearing the end, but I will let the young lady in the back, you had a question?
Thank you very much. I'm enjoying this immensely. The forms from Social Security and Medicare, what are they called again?
They're called the authorization form. I will pull them up for you and I'll give them to you the direct name. You can download them or you can call either the Medicare office or Medicaid office and or Social Security office and they can mail them to you, but I will get them to you before we leave today. But they're very, very important because they will not speak to anyone if that form is not on file. So I'm gonna look them up and give you the exact name, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Thank you so much for your information. It was enjoyed by everyone. But my question is to Assemblywoman McKnight. Is there presently anything that the state can do to help a person with long-term care? Because long-term care is so expensive, like you mentioned. Is there a state-provided program that will give us help or that is cheaper?
So that is a great question. And to answer that question, we have to find out all your assets, right? We have to look at what you currently have because you may be eligible for Medicaid that you may not be aware of. So once we go through that process and you want to go into a nursing home, or an assisted living, then we can, figure that out. But first, they must look at what resources you have, and then you may have to do the spin down. So to answer your question, each person is different, and we have to go by case by case.
So it's monetarily based?
Yes. And I would love to have a bunch of facilities here in New Jersey, right? And they don't look at the assets, they just look at the care. I would love to have it. That is like the vision.
Yeah.
But we have to take one step at a time and look at your current state and find if we can keep you at home. That's why it's so important to have a Caregivers Act, to have the Presumptive Act in place, because many people want to age at home. You probably lived in your house for 30 plus years and you want to continue to live home. So why can't we bring the services to you versus having you go into a nursing home, and then that's a whole new territory. 9 times out of 10, you will be sharing a room with someone when you have a nice bedroom home, or you transform your living room into your bedroom. So we need to fight to make sure that you can stay at home, and then it keeps that wealth in your home, right? Because then the home is passed down to the caregiver, to the family member, so you don't have to go to a long-term facility.
Right. We have time for one more question if someone has one. Okay. Does anyone on the panel have anything they want to say? I can give you a few more moments.
I just want to say one more thing.
I just love you all. I love the fact that you came here today, and I do have an ask of you. I want you to go home and tell at least 3 people about this workshop and what you learned. Predominantly the one getting their affairs in order. And if you can do that, and you can share, and then you have that person share with another 3 people, that will definitely help AARP with 1802, help with 4049, help with other legislation that's on the line, and also contact your local municipality and your county senior services and ask them about the services that they currently provide, because there may be some services that you may be eligible for, but if you don't ask, the answer is always no. But I thank you for coming here today. Your hand is raised, but I gotta go with the moderator then, if she passed me the mic. Okay, question?
Yes, thank you. I just would like to know if any of you all are available to come to the local towns that the people here live in, to come and speak, to share the information that you share with us, because we can do what we can do, but you can do it better.
Absolutely. I can come as a legislator, and I can also come as Angela Cares, because Angela Cares is a mainly senior advocacy group. So if you want me there, I will be there. I do travel.
Several of us here are from Atlantic City, and we do have speakers to come in once a month in 2 of our organizations. That's the Golden Circle of South Jersey, as well as our Ventnor chapter of, which is Atlantic City basically, of AARP. Thank you.
So, speaking on that issue, the Division of Aging Services actually has a unit where we have staff, and that's part of their day-to-day responsibilities. They go out all throughout New Jersey and they speak to our programs. I did bring some program guides. We have our telephone numbers and hotline numbers in the guide, and you can call and schedule, for speakers, and we will send someone out because piggybacking on what the Assemblywoman said, we hear a lot that when we do come out, I didn't know anything about these programs, so whatever you heard today, please share it with anyone you can possibly think of, because that is a resounding theme that we do hear a lot when we go out. So the more you spread the word, the more people that we can help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know Anthony knows where to find us, so for everyone else in the room, AARP does have a phenomenal speakers bureau that goes out and gives presentations in community. Actually, I don't know if my phone number's on any of these, my email, but come see me, I have cards. You can reach out to me or Maria from our team in the corner who helps to organize all of that, but we are always happy to speak to you all about a number of things, but especially caregiving.
We are doing so well on time. This is great. I know you all have enjoyed it as we have enjoyed you. I want to leave you with 2 takeaway words: choice and support. Choice, meaning every senior should be able to choose how they age, where they live, how they do it, and in their glorious manner, their glorious fashion. It reminds me of when my mom was ill. My mom was stylish. Gee, I wonder why that is. But Mommy was so stylish, and the one thing she said to me was, I don't want chemo. If it's not going to help me live, I don't want it. I don't want to lose my hair. I don't want to lose me. So I followed her wishes. But I did everything she wanted. She told me in advance what she wanted down to the color of her casket. I had everything the way she wanted. I had proxy. I did everything. My brothers just fell in line. And there's a point where you're going to have that one person that's going to be the premier caregiver, and it's it. That's it. So as they say, have everything put in writing. And I have to say, as a person of color, Black community, we don't want to talk about it. You have to talk about it. You want to avoid the fighting, the argument, the discourse. You have to, it's a conversation you have to have. And the other thing is support. Support family caregivers. We know it's a hard task. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, actually. And I know I'm going to do it again. I'm semi-doing it now with my dad, my stepmom. That's why I just got back the other night. I haven't even gone to sleep yet. So when this is over, I'm going to crash. But those are the two words I leave with you: choice and support. And I want to thank you all for attending. I want to urge you, as with everyone else, to consult with your legislator, support, again, you don't have to remember the numbers, A1802 and S2021 to establish the Caregivers Assistance Act, and A4049 to provide presumptive eligibility for those seeking home and community-based services. Before you leave, again, take the handouts.
I found the forms.
Oh!
I found forms.
Okay. I'll pass it back to her. Review today's handouts. See Crystal if you have any questions, comments, to get her card. Complete the forms and urge your legislators to assist and support. The goal, advocate.
So for Social Security, the form is called the Appoint Authorization Rep Form, SSA 1696. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. SSA 1696. That is the authorization form for Social Security. For Medicare, it's called the Authorization Rep Form. So you call the Medicare office, you call that number that's on behind the red, white, and blue card, and ask them to send you an authorization rep form. And if you are on Medicaid, it's called the Authorization Representative Designation Form. So there's a form per entity.
And what's interesting, they're all just a little bit different. Why can't they even have a uniform name so that you call and you just ask for the rep form for all of them? But anyway.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
That is a topic of a lot of different workshops. I will tell you that goes beyond just caregiving into so many different aspects. So you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, well, I must say we're on time. We were due to finish at 11:30. It's 11:30. We thank you all. We thank the panel. I think this was great. You can tell the round of applause. And as they say, mic drop.